Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming and listening to our faces. I'm not sure if you guys are going to be able to see this actually, but essentially this is going to be your typical chat shit podcast. So if you find any of us entertaining, then continue tuning in. But I am Luke. Then we have Jack and John.
Hi, I'm Jack.
Hi, I'm John.
Yeah, they might not be able to see you guys. Probably should speak.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. We've been waving.
Okay, sound. So yeah, what we'll do is just for this one, we tried to record this previously, and it was a mess that did not get aired. It was like 2 hours long.
It was too good. And we didn't want
to. We have to keep it private.
Yeah, it would just be downhill from there. Like your first episode.
It would set everyone's expectations too high. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what we'll do today is basically run through how we got into what we're doing at the moment. So who wants to go first? Should I go first?
Yeah, host goes first.
Yeah, mate, go on, take it away.
This is a trio host. Is that the right word? So that's not applicable. Okay. Anyway, so essentially, the hobbit of the group. I'm like 5'2", and rather than me monologuing, Jack, do you want to ask me some questions so it feels a little bit more natural, please?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Go on then. So, obviously, for those that don't know, on Instagram, you are Lactic Addict Luke. Man's blowing up.
The infamous name.
Yeah. For those who watch the Wham cast, that is burned into their brain.
So many question, Luke.
So, like, what got you into training in the first place? Were you always in hypertrophy? Was it some sporting background? What got you going in the gym, mate?
So I just finished, was it school? Yeah, because I was like 16. And my brother was like, oh, do you want to come to the gym with me? And I was like, yeah, sure, it'd be fun. And then I sort of never stopped going, if that makes sense. I was doing what I thought was bodybuilding, and it turns out I was just being stupid. And that's why I looked the same for about 2 years. And then I went to uni, sort of tried to give powerlifting a go, but Boris said no, and we all got locked down. So that one didn't happen. And then by the time we sort of came out of lockdown, I was well immersed into Fuad's podcast, and I was no longer interested in powerlifting whatsoever. And then I came to the incredible idea of, well, if you like bodybuilding, you have to compete. Otherwise, you're just not a proper bodybuilder. So instead of doing like a proper muscle building phase before, I just went and prepped and looked like shit. So here we are.
To be fair, that's ballsy. That takes a lot of character to do that.
Bro, it's not ballsy, it's stupid.
Yeah, same thing. No, genuinely mad respect for you, because you have prepped and you have competed. So you are a bodybuilder. You are the only bodybuilder here.
Yeah, so, but I had zero muscle and needed to be leaner. So definitely lessons learned from that one.
The first show is not always the best though, is it?
True.
Oh, absolutely not.
True. And you were obviously not being coached by Cal Raystrick either. So everyone who's not coached by Cal Raystrick, it's pointless. Don't
That's incredible. That's
your first show,
incredible.
Get coached by Cal, become an IFBB pro. That's normally the way it happens.
Maybe one day if I don't look like a sponge.
So you mentioned.
Okay.
You mentioned.
Sorry.
You had 2. I think you said you had a couple years or 2 years of shit training. So how long have you been training in total now?
So it would have been 2016, I think.
Damn.
That I started. So like 5 years now, unless my maths is really bad. Yeah, would it be about 5 years? Yeah, I think so. But yeah, first couple of years were essentially go in, think I was training to failure, but in reality, I had incredibly shit form. So I wasn't training any of the muscles that I should have been. And squat, bench, and deadlift were life, because if you do anything else, then you won't actually build any muscle. Jack's just grinning incredibly right now. So yeah, I made a lot of mistakes in my first couple of years, and then sort of since I've come out of prep, it's all gone in the opposite direction in terms of actually making some fucking progress.
I've got here on the definitely not scripted questions. What got you into coaching? So obviously you're extremely knowledgeable, and you get the good results, the good clients. So what background do you have in coaching? What got you into it, and kind of how have you found that as a whole?
Well, it's another typical thing. Compete once and then become a coach, isn't it, mate? That's how you do it. If you competed, you have to coach people. Like otherwise, no. So it was something that I was sort of toying around with the idea of doing, and I got a job at uni, and it sucked the life out of me because it was like 25 hours a week in one of the worst places I've ever worked in my entire life. And I'd essentially have no weekend, no time other than my own training and doing uni stuff. I literally have like an hour in the evening when I got back from the gym, and then it was bedtime.
What was this? The we won't mention the brand name barista job.
It was that one, yeah.
Yes.
Don't go to Starbucks, especially if it's.
Oh, he said it.
Oh.
You see their stock price just plummet.
We're not going to get sponsored by Starbucks, bro. Number one bodybuilding sponsors.
So yeah, essentially all of the stuff that online coaching sort of appeals to, in the sense of you've got the freedom and the flexibility to go everywhere. So obviously I just sit at my desk all day and do uni work and that sort of thing. But yeah, I was toying with the idea of doing PT, but realistically, moving up and down the country for uni every couple of months. So what am I going to do? Build up a client base and then leave and then have to start all over again. So it made the most sense. And then from there, I've learned from people a hell of a lot more intelligent than myself and made a shit. Look at your vein in your forearm. And yeah, made a shit ton of mistakes along the way and sort of learned from all of those. So I'm almost a year deep into doing that now.
Nice, man. I want to say and like tack on to a lot of people, and I'm sure that you will agree with this, a lot of people see online coaching as an easy ride. I definitely did starting off. And when you get into a point where you're really working and you're really invested in your client's progress, it's a fuck ton of hard work. Yes, it's extremely flexible, can't deny that, but it is very, very tiring. And the amount of times I've gone on holiday with my family or my girlfriend's family, and I've been up late at night waiting for them to go to sleep on my laptop, responding to messages and reviewing form. Like, you only get days off that you give days off to yourself. There's no backup. Like, if you're a one-man band and you tell people I'm taking the week off, they don't have a coach for a week, basically. So it is like, yeah, I wanted to tack that on. I see a lot of people being like, oh yeah, I really want to get into coaching, because I think there's this modern idea of like the guy that works 2 hours a week and pulls in like 6 figures a year being a coach. And like, it's fucking
like what a members site.
Yeah, members site.
Once you get busier, yeah, it's definitely something that can be challenging.
Yeah.
So I know once I'm really busy in terms of clients, I will, if I go abroad for a week with my family, I will like plan in advance to them, like what's going to happen for them over the next 10 days, 2 weeks, so that I can have a week off, because everybody else gets weeks off.
Yeah, exactly.
And that sort of thing. So it's not fair to literally work 24/7, if that makes sense. So yeah, it can be something that can be a bit difficult, but like at the moment, I can still manage check-ins alongside going away for a couple of days.
Yeah, obviously it's flexible and extremely rewarding. And if like we're all interested in this realm, so to us it's kind of a dream job. But I wanted to put out there that people have this idea, and I've had people talk to me that like I sit on my ass and then I do like 30 minutes of work and then get paid bank, and it's like none of that is true. But,
fuck's sake. Yeah, right. What about me for a little while? What's going on with you lads?
Right, John,
how did you
you're
get
up.
into training?
I'm up. Yeah. You what, sorry? Where do you want me to start?
How did you get into training? Because if I remember rightly, you have a bit of a sports background.
Yeah, man. I've quite a drastic sports background, to be honest. Like I was used to play rugby when I started at 9. I finished at 18. Just kind of wasn't for me. I had a few of my own problems at the time as well. So I mean, that discontinued that. There was no point. But through the years with rugby, I was able to find the gym out of like the numerous injuries that I had. I obviously had to go to rehab quite a few times, and that kind of got me into the gym. And then obviously once leaving rugby, gym was like my only outlet. That was like my main expenditure source. And for maybe from the age of like 15 to 19, I was experimenting just a lot. I got quite heavy into powerlifting, set a good few numbers, and then from there, I thought, right, it's time to join the big boys and get into bodybuilding. And it's essentially how we got here today.
Nice, man.
Yeah, currently studying at uni, sport and exercise science.
Ooh.
And in the mechanics lab, where my name may not be featured in a piece of research coming out.
Ooh, are you allowed to say like what? Give us some quick details on that research.
Feet.
Nah, bro, it's top secret.
It's feet.
Feet.
It's
No.
it's about feet. Yes.
Ooh. What like
So
foot
intrigued.
health?
You'll see if it comes out.
Oh,
Yeah.
just a little Joe Jeffries over here
Oh well.
in the research papers.
Bit of Jared Feather, I'd like to consider myself.
Jared, I like that. To be fair. Get his trim. You got to do it. Back it.
I'm not getting that dead trim.
Oh, bro,
Such
so
a
good,
dead
so
trim.
Bless him. He does what he wants, though. You got to respect it.
Yeah, no, I do respect it. It's a sick haircut.
Trim. So,
Yeah.
how long have you been training then, all in all? If it's been quite some time.
I believe I'd stepped foot in the gym on my own when I was about 15.
And you are
So-
how old now for the audience?
Oh, I'm 21 years old now.
Oh my God! I didn't realize
Yeah.
you were 21, bro. Shit, I
Yeah.
missed it. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're real
Nah, that's
adult.
okay. That's okay. Yeah, 6 years of long training, not much progress being made, but we're here.
That's not true for anyone watching. Being very humble right now.
No, sir.
In
With
terms
the
of
coaching,
your coaching,
yeah.
because part of the reason that I wanted to do a podcast and bring John on, because he's a very knowledgeable guy, but he hasn't taken the plunge with his coaching. And I think it is one of those things where you just have to get into it, especially with like I know John personally. He's an extremely knowledgeable guy, and he has enough definitely to be coaching people, but he's yet to do that. So I'm using this as peer pressure to leave it against you.
No, but
Everybody
I've been
go and
coaching.
get in John's DMs
Yeah.
right now.
I can't handle the workload at the minute, boys. But I appreciate it. Come hit me up.
Fair.
3 months if you want.
Go talk to John and he'll be like, come back to me in a few semesters time, mate.
When
Too
the
busy
research
getting
is out.
research papers published.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Oh, true.
Yeah. I mean, it sort of started quite a simple way, to be honest. Just a mate from school, just can you help me out? And so, yeah,
Fair, man.
nothing too amazing, just yet to compete as well.
And if you give us a rundown of kind of, like competing, current goals, where you're at, what you want to do post uni kind of thing, if you've got any plans.
Yeah, I mean, currently, the plan is just get as big as possible. There's no real show in sight in the foreseeable at all. And to be honest, Jack understands the criticism I put myself under.
Yeah, 100%.
But there's not enough on me. There's not enough tissue on me in the first place to even be criticizing. So I've still got a lot of growing ahead of me before I even consider a date.
You are too harsh on yourself by far. By fucking far.
So what's going on for you at the moment then? Like training wise, nutrition wise, what sort of phase are you in?
It's perma bulk at the minute. That's just kind of how it's been. But obviously stress from uni, that's kind of like hit the bulk pretty hard. I've actually ended up losing quite a bit of weight recently as well. But training at the minute is honestly just volume escalation, just either upper or lower volume escalation, and just repeat that process.
Things we love to hear.
Oh,
Yeah, fair play, man. Fair play, man. I'm running a little volume at the moment. It would be interesting when I do get back to see
you're gonna have to
how
repeat that, mate.
things go on that front.
Okay, that was Luke lagging, not us.
Sorry, so Yeah, that was me, mate. I've got the Wi-Fi of a toaster house. So I'm convinced this second I put my arm out of the window with my phone, it's absolute building. So it's a bit peculiar. But yeah, I'm running a lower volume block at the moment, so it's just going to be interesting once I do get back to the volume escalation plan and see how that goes, because 6 sets of hack squats was not fun.
Ooh.
That's not the one, Chief.
When you're running a like baseline or lower volume block, Luke, do you still follow an RIR scheme, or is it more standardized and set like your volume?
Yeah, so volume will stay stationary across the entire training block, and then RIR will still go from like 2 down to 0. But I have a tendency to bury myself and think it's easier than it actually is. So I aim for the first week, and then somewhere along then I sort of tend to jump it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man.
What about
Is
you,
that
Jack?
out
Then
of-
what are you up to at the moment?
So in terms of my training, I'm just reversing out of a horrific mini cut. It was food was I just mini cut forever. I just love it. Food was 1,700 calories. I got down to like 79 kilo at 5'9". Steps were at 16K. I do about 8 of which fasted in the morning. And then I was training 5 days a week. I whipped off 10 kilo in 4 weeks, so I felt horrible. And so now
That's wild.
Yeah, now we're slowly pushing back up. So I'm drenched in veins, which is fun, but I'm also hungry permanently, which is less fun.
You look big,
Mate,
though.
I'll take some of that hunger gladly.
Oh mate, I just want to be on like 5k calories. That's all I want. Like 200 rice, 4 times a day. That'd be bueno. I'll be happy. And then
You say that now, but you know full well you're going to be ruined when you get there.
Oh yeah, I can't wait for it. I said this to Luke before, like I have never, like my entire training career, pretty much I've been like doing diets mainly. I've had one really good game phase last year. I put on 50 pounds, but since then, and even then at like peak 190 pounds, 86 kilo, I still had a crazy appetite. I've never pushed my appetite, and I really want it. Training wise at the minute, we're doing arm and delt specialization, so that's got volume escalation, and then obviously RIR escalation, and then everything else is at MEV with about 1 RIR, 0 RIR.
And just for the listeners who may not be familiar with those terms, could you give us a rundown?
Yeah, so basically my shoulders and arm work, we start off with less sets. Every week we add sets, and then we'll start off, I think it was 3 reps away from failure, 3 reps away from true failure. So it looks, when you look at the set, it looks quite like you could almost think it's failure, but it's not. It's 3 reps away. And then we'll go to 2 reps, then 1.
Yeah, so like the speed of the reps is starting to slow down, and then that's sort of when you call it in that first week.
Yeah.
How have you found the RIR training? Because obviously you're quite a famous boy for going to failure.
Yeah, man. So I always trained at like minimum effective volume, like the minimum amount of sets that you need to grow, and then training with a high level of accuracy and training to perceived failure, which I market myself as like a coach for busy people. So if you're busy, you're low on time, that's normally the approach I would take. Because once you've maxed out someone's volume, or once you've escalated it to a point that their schedule just doesn't have any more time for, then you have to start pushing intensity. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I still, when I have more food, I like training to failure. But when I'm in a mini cut, I definitely prefer RIR training, like just from a fatigue management standpoint.
It also doesn't really make sense in a mini cut as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
yeah,
if you're pulling off 10 kilos in 4 weeks, that rate of loss is wild. There's no way you've got the energy to build new muscle at that point.
Exactly. Yeah, I did not progress my lifts. My lifts did fall. I always say to people, when you're dieting, you can push your numbers up. A mini cut is different to a diet. And my numbers now and my first week, literally my first week of reversing out, as soon as food went out, we had a deload and then food went up and I started training again. My numbers matched where they were before the mini cut. So overall strength has held, which is exactly what we want. And now we're reaching all-time strength again. And yeah, I did not train to failure. I did not take those 50-50 reps. I was probably like on isolations, probably 1 rep away. And then on compounds, really like hard shit like hacks and hinges, I was probably 2, just trying not to bury myself, trying to keep numbers in a good place.
Yeah, and I find as well, like when I did my last mini cut, I was still trying to progress at the same rate when I was gaining. And because I was trying so hard to progress, like taking shit that I shouldn't have gone for, that was only building up so much more fatigue. So the next time I came round to it, it was just even harder.
Yeah.
So you have to be, especially when it comes to mini cuts, you have to be a lot more intelligent with how you program stuff. Like it doesn't make sense to bury yourself on a hack squat. Like what are you going to get out of it? You're not going to be building any muscle at that point.
Yeah, the goal of a mini cut is to remove fat, really. That's its prime goal. Everything else is
remove fat and not lose muscle.
Yeah. And like you're in a mini cut, in a really aggressive mini cut, you're just not going to be gaining muscle or gaining strength. The goal is to make it to the end without being buried, keeping numbers as high as you can. And the main thing for me especially is making sure my accuracy was on point. If that meant pulling a couple kilos or pounds off last week's lifts, that's fine, because accuracy is everything. And you know, if you're doing a lat pull down and you've gone from controlling it to throwing it, you're not going to be putting as much tension through that tissue. And arguably the best thing that you can do to prevent muscle loss is actually train the tissue. You know?
Yeah, exactly. If you're putting less and less stimulus through it each week, you're probably going to lose some of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whereas if you keep it in a good point, then it should be sound. I'm just going to let you two interview each other for a second while I go and heat my food up, but I'll be back in a minute.
Go on, mate. Get some scram.
Anabolic.
Look at that tricep,
Time.
that bicep. Jeez.
Shoots.
So your course, I'm interested. What's driven you
boss.
to kind of go for that course, John?
Well, I guess there was a lot of influence with going to college and doing sport and exercise science there, but also kind of meeting someone of higher education than myself, a role model, if you would.
Oh yeah.
He kind of pushed me to pursue this passion for sort of more research, or conducting research, sorry, and definitely like towards the biomechanics more than anything. Like I love sports science as like just a subject and everything that encapsulates it, like nutrition. But there's something about biomechanics. It does seem pretty worthwhile, in my opinion. You got your boy like Nick Gloff as well, massive inspiration of mine, and he's obviously very big on biomechanics. Yeah, and the kind of goal coming out of it would be to try my best to help as many people as I can.
Yeah, man.
I guess, yeah.
If you were to, for people that don't know, so I'm sure there'll be one or two, how would you summarize what biomechanics is as a concept or as a subject, and kind of how it's useful and why you hear people talking about it today?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of, instead of seeing the body as this pile of meat and just tissue, essentially we were taking more of like an objective approach. So we're using numbers and we're looking at the body not necessarily as a machine, but observing like the biological elements just as like a mechanistic process, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And also understanding external forces, internal forces, ground force reactions, Newton's laws, I believe, if you want to look it up.
Oh.
So sort of taking that approach with it.
So it's like to dumb down what you've said.
Yeah.
Like looking at the way that our bodies move and the way that our joints move, and I guess like in a concept of training, like what forces and pressures are being applied to what joints and muscles. So like let's take a squat. How are they moving? What are they using in that squat? How can we adjust that squat if we're talking
So
about training.
yeah, so I mean, if you were to use biomechanics to, let's say, analyze a squat, I'm sure everyone's heard, or not everyone, but you've come across the term moment arm, and this is such a commonly used term when talking about a squat, because the second we start talking about, oh, how could I get more at my quads when I squat, people always say whack the bar across your fucking neck and go up and down then.
Yeah.
I mean, what we're actually looking at there is the moment arm being created at the knee. So the distance, how far away is the weight from this joint, essentially, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so when you do a front squat, the bar is closer to the knee, and more knee travel means more quad work because the quad extends the knee, goes from a bent leg to a straight leg. And when you're squatting, you're going from a bent leg to a straight leg with weight on you.
Yeah. And also obviously the more up the front squat as well, the ability to actually stay more upright.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily want the weight closer to the knees, because that's kind of what the approach is with a low bar squat, is that we're almost having it in line with the knees. So then there's not no requirement, but there's less of a requirement for your quads to extend the knee. There's more of a requirement for your hammies, your glutes, and your spinae to extend the back and extend the hip.
You've also got the question with a what's the word I was looking for there? Front squat. That's the one I was looking for. Of is the quads the limiting factor in that sense? Because if you've got somebody that can't actually get into that position and hold it there throughout the entire set, then it's still going to be a shit quad exercise because you can't take the quads to failure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people would benefit from that kind of, we've sort of pivoted subjects, but oh well, like the concept of like the limiting factor. I think a lot of people would benefit in their training in general from understanding what is the limiting factor. And like the classic example that still does my nut in is people deadlifting without straps for forearm hypertrophy. It's like your forearms are so restrictive on that deadlift. They are such a limiting factor that you're in the entire back of the human body compared to your forearms and your ability to hold onto a bar. It's so limiting that you're just not training anything really. Like, yeah, you're getting some forearm stimulus, but there's a time and a place, and it's absolutely not a deadlift or a hinge.
That time and a place would be if you are a competitive powerlifter, though.
Yeah, we're talking about like a hypertrophy concept. Yeah, thank you, Luke.
This is why. Where does that approach come from with the deadlifting for forearm size? I guess this is what people are doing. Why is there always that approach of?
Is people saying
compounds are best?
They say
why not actually train the muscle action, if that makes sense?
People always say like, I don't want to use wrist straps, because I think it is an idea from powerlifting, because they're like, oh, it's cheating, it's taking my forearms out, I want big forearms. And like I just say to people like, well, I don't know why you're just giving yourself a shit stimulus overall. Like, yeah, okay, fair, you're going to be hitting your forearms more, but you're hitting everything else so much less. And the purpose of this exercise isn't to hit everything else. It isn't to hit your forearms, it's to hit everything else. I just don't understand.
Would you rather have a shit back or shit forearms?
Shit forearms.
Shit forearms, but also you can use some wrist curls.
Yeah, that is it. I like reverse cable curls going that way when you're standing up, if that makes sense. They're absolutely atrocious.
Are we just training the flexion of the wrist? Is that the key? Okay, yeah.
Oh my god. No. If you're a listener, nothing happened. No actions were made with anyone's wrists. No suggestive actions.
That seems fair. Do the listeners want to run down on what I'm eating? What I'm going to see if I can eat?
Wait, show it to the camera. Let's see if I can guess what it is.
Okay.
Is it a C-Bone classic?
It looks like rice and beef and spinach.
Yeah, pretty much.
What else
is is one of the... Yeah, I've got some peppers and some tomatoes as well, actually. They're all right. But this is one of the last meals I have left of my old meal plan, because basically my appetite is absolutely fucked. So I said for anybody who doesn't know, I'm coached by Matt Strong from the Physique Collective. So I said to Matt for my check-in this morning, which obviously won't be this morning to whoever's listened to this, but my appetite is horrendous. Can you give me a meal plan with all of the appetite hacks deployed? So that will be starting. I'm going to the shop tomorrow, and then I've got a couple of other bits of food to like eat before then in terms of what I was having on my old meal plan. So we'll see how that goes. And if not, Savage Mini Cup will be deployed to restore the appetite. Because
man.
there are
Any
meals
life
that
politics
I
going
don't
to
want
be
to
used?
start, let alone finish. I'm natty, bro. What are you talking? I have actually got Yohimbe left from prep though, but it seems a bit stupid to use it for a mini cup.
Fair. Right. Is there anything else that people wanted to touch on before we wrap up? I'm aware of the time. Don't want to make it too long. Luke is said.
What's our vision for the podcast? We need to establish what our goals are.
I think there's definitely going to be more of a casual, chatty podcast. Kind of bring some people on. Post up. If we shout out our Instagrams, we'll post up some questions on there and answer them. But I mean, yeah, like I think a good balance of like sharing some knowledge, because the three of us do have plenty of knowledge to the part. But we're not exactly the muscle mentors. So, you know, a bit of a shit chat as well.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. Bring like a guest on occasionally to discuss some stuff about what they're doing, perhaps some knowledge that we don't currently have, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
And then
We've all got amazing people around us to bring on anyway. Jack has a few. You have a lot, Luke.
Cheers, bro. But yeah, it'd be good, and then have some debates that hopefully can help some people, because we've got a decent amount of experience, whether that be from our own journey or working with clients, and I'm sure there can be a couple of golden nuggets in there to anyone who's willing to listen to us.
Any poor soul.
Yeah, that sounds about good, man.
Right, if that is everything, then I guess we will wrap up the first episode of Catabolic Window. Anyone got any parting messages for the viewers? Any take homes? Any general life advice?
Thank you very much to everybody for listening. I have been lactic addict Luke. I hope you've all enjoyed. Shout out your Instagram, boys.
John?
At JCC training _ training, sorry.
Yeah, _ careful, bro.
Yeah, careful.
I am at Jack Archer Coaching.
Solid. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening, and let us know what you think in the comments. If you think we're shit, let us know.
Yeah, please.
And we'll stop making podcasts forever. Because
tell us how shit we are, so we can all quit doing. Just delete our Instagrams. Just get it all done. Wrap it up.
I'm an enigma.
Right, I'm ending the recording because this is ridiculous. There we go. See you all later.